This is Brendan and Grady from Boy Defined Ministries.
Jack and Ray.
3, 2, 1.
Hello and welcome to Second Take Sports. I'm your host, Grady Tarzian, and here to join me is Jack Luscious Lock Sawyer and Devin Loves the Pats Riley. In recent news, the NFL faces a massive question. What will be the fate of Tom Brady's career? The New England Patriots lost to the Tennessee Titans in a 2013 upset that marks their earliest elimination from the NFL playoffs since 2009. The answer grows ever more ambiguous following their loss to the Titans, after which Brady indicated a possible move to a different team. Brady's post-game talk concluded with the following: "Who knows what the future will hold?" So I'll leave it at that.
So I personally believe that Tom Brady is still a top 3 or 4 quarterback in the NFL. I think this past season he has showed that he's declining from that number 1 spot that he was the year before.
He wasn't number 1 last year.
I believe he
Patty
was.
Mahomes.
Let Devin finish, please. Thank you, Jack.
He's never really had the weapons since maybe Gronk, Randy Moss.
Yeah, they're terrible
players.
players.
Who else can you
James White is a terrible player.
Like,
Aaron Hernandez was a terrible player.
So let's not digress. Let's get back to Devin.
I think
I
think Tom Brady makes players like Wes Welker, Julian Edelman into great players. Wes Welker went from being a top 5 wide receiver in New England's offense going into the Broncos team with Peyton Manning. He did not play at all, and then eventually was cut by the Broncos team.
So, I agree with you that Brady can still play, but I don't think he's as good as you think he is. I don't think he's like a top 5 quarterback anymore. You can't say he's better than Drew Brees, Pat Mahomes, Lamar Jackson. At this point, Jimmy Garoppolo.
Look at Drew Brees' talent around him. He's the best offensive weapons in the league.
Okay, but he also did way better than Tom Brady.
Tom Brady has won, 3 Super Bowls in the last 4 or 5 years?
Okay, are we talking about 4 or 5 years ago, or are we talking about now?
He still makes it to the
playoffs. Wow,
playoffs.
it sounded like a Cowboys fan.
He gets the job done every single year.
Not this year, apparently.
They still went 12-4, 13-3.
They lost 3 of their last 4 games, didn't they?
Yeah, but look at their offense and tell me.
I digress. What?
Tell me,
I agree with you that Brady
Julian
can still play.
Edelman, N'Keal Harry, who didn't play half the season, was their wide receiver 1 in the playoffs. He had more catches than Julian Edelman in that Titans game. How is Brady?
So
Brady's
guys,
getting
what does this all suggest about him maybe not being a part of the New England Patriots next year?
Well, I think he's definitely going to return to the NFL and play, but it'll be interesting what he does in free agency. I mean, it's obviously probable that he'll stay in New England. I mean, he's been there his whole career. He's familiar with the system, the coaches, the fans, everything, ownership. He's tight with them, but I don't think it's out of the possibility for him to go to a team that just needs a quarterback to put him over the hump, like maybe the San Diego Chargers. I mean, they've got a good O-line. Not really. Good pass-blocking O-line, sorry. Good weapons, good tight end. Hunter Henry's somewhat like Gronk in that aspect.
Hunter Henry's a free agent.
Yeah, I know, but they couldn't re-sign him. And or he could go to Minnesota after how their relative playoff success. I don't think they're really in the market for a quarterback. That could potentially be a good fit. But after how this season went, I think it's going to take a little bit of help for him to return to New England. I think he's going to need some new guys on the O-line, some new weapons, and a new OC because McDaniels is going to leave. And honestly, this year and last year, McDaniels' offense hasn't worked.
After the Browns hired the Vikings offensive coordinator, where do you think McDaniels is going to go? I don't see any more options for him to go anywhere else.
No.
I think he's staying, and I think that means Brady is staying also. So I think the Pats are going to bring in some offensive weapons with A.J. Green. Maybe Hunter Henry will come here. And so I personally believe there's no question Tom Brady will come back. I think they'll give him the money that he wants, the same, maybe probably a little bit less than other teams would give him. But I think they will invest in weapons like Hunter Henry, A.J. Green, maybe another. They already have a decent amount of running backs with James White. Rex Burkhead played well in the.
They don't have anyone that can actually run the ball, though. No, but I agree with you that McDaniels likely staying in New England helps Brady's chances of staying. But I disagree with you in that I can't picture them going after a guy like A.J. Green and Hunter Henry in free agency. Like, the Patriots aren't known specifically for being ultra aggressive and spending a lot of money on free agents. And also, you're going to have to pay Brady a decent amount of money. I don't know if he's going to take a hometown discount this time.
So, Sawyer, what team do you see Brady at? Like, do you think any teams would have more incentive for him to join?
You know, I think right now you have to go with New England, but that's contingent upon them bringing in more talent around him, because while he's still a good quarterback, I mean, he's not very elusive or anything in the pocket, can't really escape pressure, so they're going to need to bolster the O-line. I mean, you saw that this year when the quick routes that they usually throw weren't open and the protection broke down. There wasn't anything Brady could do. So
I think
if they revamp the O-line and the weapon and their offensive playmakers and weapons, I think he'll stay in New England. But if they don't, I think it's anyone's guess where he goes.
Exactly. So that's why I think they will bring in weapons like A.J. Green. I know in the past they haven't really needed to, because they've had maybe Gronk, Edelman, and Brady's been he was the number one quarterback in the league in those years. Mm-hmm. But now that he's on his decline, and maybe they're investing in a backup quarterback that they're kind of like grooming along with Brady, I think they need weapons like A.J. Green, Hunter Henry for Brady to actually stay and want to groom that backup quarterback. Like,
I agree with you on that.
Brissett or Garoppolo, I don't think Brady really knew that he was grooming them, but in the sense of being Tom Brady's backup with the greatest player of all time, I think, like, obviously you're going to become a good quarterback. Look at Brissett. He played pretty well considering being in a new team. Jimmy Garoppolo is still in the playoffs in the NFC Championship next week.
Yeah.
But I think Brady has that influence on his teammates and his coaches that all he does is win.
All right, well, I think that concludes our debate. It's going to be really interesting to see the future of Tom Brady coming soon, but we'll be back in a bit.
They should trade up.
Hey guys, welcome back. Next, we shift to an analysis of tonight's national championship football game between the Clemson Tigers and the LSU Tigers. Analyst Jack Luscious Lock Sawyer will cover LSU's argument for taking the victory tonight, and Hayden Lawrence will argue for their opponent, the Tigers of Clemson.
Okay, so LSU comes in. I think they're the consensus favorite. They've been ranked number one for the majority of the second half of the season. They have 6 top 10 wins so far this year. I think that's
most of that in the second half of the year.
And
first
they
team
pretty much
SEC
dominated
to the play fake, the slant, the catch, and the touchdown
and you saw me
for
in
Justin
Oklahoma.
Jefferson.
I mean, they just torched them from they scored on top of it.
Because it did not show any sign on those 2 runs. Bar Chase now lined up on the left.
And I think the key to the game tonight is
feels the rush so well and throws for
like they
a
did
touchdown.
against Oklahoma.
Terrace Marshall after the
forcing a lot of 3 and outs to get
the end of the game at 77-9. That would be the record. Throwing deep.
And obviously the LSU offense led by Joe Burrow is spectacular. But I don't know if they've faced a defense like Clemson.
Balls that they've had their hands on that they couldn't
so
come down
I think
with.
that's going to be the matchup, the exciting matchup
Burrow
we're going to be watching for.
dodges the rush. Going for Jefferson again. It's
I
another
personally think LSU
touchdown.
is going to rise to the occasion.
Single game playoff record
win this
with
game.
4 touchdown
Big
passes.
defense.
Some trickery. They need a big play.
I
And
kind of
instead
agree with you.
it's
It's
intercepted.
really, really hard to count out and pick against LSU. But here's the thing, is that Clemson is very, very experienced. They've been here last year. They have guys who've been in the national championship or at least the playoffs 2 or 3 times. And at the end of the day, this is a very similar team from last year. All they really lost was their pass rush, which is a lot. But
It's LSU, you need a pass.
yeah, but they still have very, very good pass rushers. They have Isaiah Simmons on the defense, a great running game, 2 very good receivers, and of course Trevor Lawrence. It's hard to count out this Clemson team. And yes, it does feel like LSU has been the team of destiny all season, but Clemson is really, really, really sneaky. We saw it last night. Everyone was saying how Baltimore is the team of destiny this year. Lamar Jackson's just going to set the playoffs on fire. Next thing you know, Tennessee plays their games, they catch a couple breaks, The Ravens have had a couple weeks off. They're kind of shaky. Next thing you know, upsets happen in football, and that's why you still have to play the games.
Yeah, and I know what you're saying about that. But after or before the Clemson Ohio State game, Dabo Swinney said, "You can prepare for what we do, but you can't prepare for who we are." Here's the thing. Clemson hasn't played a team all year like LSU. They haven't played a team that's as explosive, as physical, and also they haven't played a team that's as well coached. I mean, Joe Brady on the offensive side of the ball, they're paying him like NFL head coach money to be their passing game coordinator in college, and the dude's under 30 years old. He's the next Sean McVay. He's significantly better than Sean McVay. He's adapted in every situation they've faced. So not only is it hard to prepare for who they are, it's also almost impossible to prepare for what they're going to do because of all the looks and different packages they'll throw at you.
I think saying Clemson hasn't faced a coaching staff like LSU is false.
Well, they haven't faced a coaching staff with as much talent.
Mac Brown has won multiple national championships. They faced him. They faced Ryan Day, who's set the football world on fire this year, and they beat him. On to that Ohio State game, though. I really did feel like while watching it that Clemson didn't have a great start. They came out slow. Ohio State dominated, but what kept Clemson in the game was their red zone defense. Ohio State kept on getting in the red zone and could not punch in. And honestly, who's to say that LSU's red zone offense is much better?
Well,
they could score at any place in the field, which, yes, is very good. But they're going to need to convert in the red zone because Clemson's going to put points up.
Yeah.
And I do think that LSU is going to win the football game. I think that they're the better overall team. But if you get LSU's been in a season where they're scoring every time and they're scoring 50 every game. You get 3 and out once. Maybe your rhythm isn't as good because you've had 2 weeks off, and all of a sudden you start panicking because you only have 21 points at halftime. It's a whole. 21. I know, but it's honestly for LSU that's a low-scoring game, and
it just puts it into perspective.
Yeah, they've just been dominant all season, and they've really only been challenged in one game, which was the Alabama game. That could honestly come back to bite them because Clemson's been tested all year.
Yeah, one thing to your point about the Mac Brown game, I know. They beat UNC by 1.
Yeah, you're right.
And UNC is a freshman quarterback, and everyone on that team is significantly less.
But they've been much better since that.
They have. They've
That's
won
the
all their
definition of a
games
trap game.
besides
But we got to
Ohio
wrap it
State
up.
by
We got to
at least
wrap it
30
up.
All right, well, there are really compelling arguments for either side. I'm really excited for this game personally. But now we will move on to the final aspect of today's debate, which will center around quarterback Tua Tagovailoa of Alabama and his draft potential, which will be undertaken by analyst Caden CZ Taby. So we will return in a bit.
2, 1.
5,
Ready.
4,
Let's
3.
roll.
Welcome to Second Take. I'm here with Hayden, Jack, and I'm Caden. We'd just like to discuss our opinions on Tua Tagovailoa and where we believe he should be drafted next year in this upcoming NFL draft. I honestly believe that Tua should be, after suffering such a bad injury, he should be sort of in the later parts of the first round, maybe to a team like New England or New Orleans that's preparing for their quarterback to retire in the future.
I'll start. Personally, I think that you want to see your quarterback in college. It's not necessarily about the numbers. I think that the most important thing is, did he win in college? And you all think Alabama's great, they're always number 1, but at the end of the day, he didn't really start a whole season and win a national championship. And with Bama, that says a lot because he had the best guys. He probably had 3 top 10 picks on his team this year, and Dylan Moses, himself, and Judy before he got hurt.
He lost 2 games since the start of his high school career, though.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, he lost the big one.
Because LSU's team was way better than his team around.
I'm talking about Clemson.
Oh, I thought you were talking about this year.
Yeah.
Well, he has been an awesome.
Well, compared to teams.
He's been in a great system all his career, essentially. And
He didn't make Bama better.
That's not true. You saw the evolution of their offense. They used to be archaic with running the ball every first and second down with Jalen Hurts. They had no explosive passing game. And then you see highlights from this year. Tua throwing 5 first-half touchdowns and then them taking him out. 6 touchdowns to Devontae Smith against Ole Miss this year. You can't say that he didn't change that offense and that team completely.
Sure, but in past years, there's been quarterbacks that have been considered worse than Tua's value that have succeeded more than Tua has at Alabama. in this past season at least.
Yeah, and personally, I think Tua is the second best quarterback in the draft behind Joe Burrow, who's obviously the consensus number one for everyone. But I think Tua would be a good fit for someone like the Dolphins, top 10 pick. And let's face it, the Dolphins aren't competing for a championship or anything next year. So they can let him rest for a year, let his hip fully recover, let him grasp the playbook better. And that way he can be 100%. They'll get a good draft pick next year, bolster that O-line, get some new weapons. And I think that's how you turn it around.
To the contrary, though, they could just tank for Trevor. They don't need a quarterback. They could take one of the best playmakers in the draft. They a top 5 pick this year.
That's very
Yeah,
true.
but we
Get a
saw
very,
Trevor
very
Lawrence
good.
last
You can
night.
get Jerry Jeudy, get your future quarterbacks of stars, pair up Trevor Lawrence and Jerry Jeudy. There you go. That's all you need.
I like Tua and Jerry Jeudy better together. And honestly,
Well, they
you
can't
saw
do that
Trevor
because
Lawrence.
They don't have 2 top 5 picks this year.
Yeah, it's true. But Trevor Lawrence, we all saw him last night. I mean, he had, 13, 14 overthrows?
You give him the
How do you overthrow 6'5" T.
Burrow
Higgins
is-
and 6'6"?
Joe Burrow's 3 years older than
Trevor Lawrence is a
he
specimen.
still played way better.
he did, but he's 3 years older. Give Trevor Lawrence 3 years, you can't tell me he's not better than Joe Burrow is right now.
Well, we're not talking about Trevor Lawrence right now. We're talking about Tua.
But also,
But, like,
is it worth risking after watching Tua go down with a dislocated hip,
looking
an
for
injury
more in the
that
final 3
kind
minutes
of
of
ruined
this
careers?
first
For
half.
example, Dennis Pitta had
Comes
a
out throwing.
dislocated hip.
Bo
When he was in
Jackson had
Baltimore,
the
Bo
same
Jackson had the
Pressure
same
from
exact
behind.
injury, and that was the end
And
of his
that's what
career.
Nick
Like,
Saban
it's
is
taking
thinking
a high risk
with
on
Mac
a
Jones.
guy that could
He's down.
potentially not be the
Wanna
same
see
that he
happen,
ever was before
and
number 5 in the draft.
yeah, I mean,
Sometimes as a
Tua
coach,
has had ankle
you just got to
problems
listen
last
to your gut.
year
And
year
I
and a
think
half
Nick
or
wanted
so.
to take him out.
But he's still been the same.
And Tua
then
talked him back
the hip
into it,
injury,
and
I mean,
hopefully this
I get what
isn't
you mean by
serious.
it. A lot of the time for like skilled
You've seen
position
this from
players, it could be
a couple of
career-
times
like a
this
career
season where
altering
he's
injury,
gotten
like with
hurt
Bo.
because he's
but
extending
for a
the play.
quarterback, I mean, Tua's a good athlete, but he's not Lamar Jackson running it, 15, 20 times a game.
You're right.
I still think he'll be able to drop back, take a deep drop, and sling it. I mean,
But here's the thing.
I think we can all agree he's one of the most accurate passers we've ever seen, and he's only in college, so that's only going to go up.
I don't know if we've ever seen. I mean, he's throwing to wide open receivers down the field. You
Not
don't need to be
always.
that arrogant.
Not always.
No, you got Devonta Smith, Henry Ruggs, and Jerry Jeudy. It's not hard.
That's true.
I think personally,
Don't forget Waddle.
my favorite quarterback in the draft this year is Justin Herbert.
What?
He's a competitor. I mean, he runs guys over on the field. He's a very good passer. He's a good arm. He's got the size. And I think I'd love him to see maybe get drafted by Pittsburgh and maybe Chargers. Let him sit out 1 year, maybe even a couple weeks. Very well run
Team
organizations.
gets a lot of
that have
chances.
ton
They
of
don't.
talent around him.
Here comes
I
the
want him
reverse.
to
They're
see
going to
the
pitch
best
it back
case
to
scenario. I want him
Herbert,
to
and
see
he's
the
taking a
second
shot.
season.
Going for Johnson.
I agree with you on that it'd be ideal for him to sit out a year. But, I mean, you saw him this year. He didn't dominate the Pac-12. I mean, if you look at this...
Can you name one player on Oregon's offense besides
Stiff
Justin
arm
Herbert?
again.
Oh,
Quarterback
Verdell.
in the clear.
What's his first name?
Inside the 10.
CJ?
A hat trick.
One player. I can name 5 receivers on Alabama.
Okay, but still, compare the SEC versus the Pac-12. The SEC, you're playing
Herbert
against
under pressure.
NFL players every week. The Pac-12, you throw a few Colorados in there, a few Colorado States.
I'm sure Alabama was
conservative
just
plan
devastated when they saw
offensively from
Arkansas
Oregon.
on the schedule.
Yeah, but still, like you look at this Oregon offense compared to previous ones, they weren't they didn't put up nearly as many points as you're accustomed to seeing Oregon put up. And I mean, you got to look at history here. I mean, Marcus Mariota, he was a stud in college. His numbers were way better than Justin Herbert, and he just couldn't get it done in the NFL.
Could you name one quarterback from Alabama that's been good in the NFL?
No, but Tua.
So what is your point?
Tua changed their offense. Before you saw when they had Derrick Henry, they were running it 40, 50 times a game. They changed that completely
The
this year.
Titans are running it 40, 50 times a game with Derrick Henry.
There's a wide variety of
Yeah, but the
players,
Titans
like-
quarterback is Ryan Tannehill. But what I'm saying is, Justin Herbert did not dominate in the Pac-12. So what's going to make you think he's going to be a dominant quarterback?
There's plenty of guys who haven't
You
dominated.
can't deny that
There's Joe,
Tua
and then there's
dominated.
everyone else, guys.
Tua
No,
dominated.
you're right. But there's plenty of guys in the NFL who haven't dominated in college. I mean,
Okay.
think about it. Who are the top 4 quarterbacks remaining right now? Jimmy Garoppolo went to Eastern Illinois.
Yeah, but he's not a top 4 quarterback.
I'm trying to think. Who are the teams remaining? You got Aaron Rodgers.
Patrick Mahomes was pretty
Aaron
good in
Rodgers.
college.
Aaron Rodgers didn't dominate the Pac-12. Brady.
Brady's not remaining. Remember they lost.
But Patrick Mahomes didn't dominate at Texas Tech.
Yeah, he did.
He definitely didn't. They went,
He
what,
did.
like 7-5?
Huh?
7-5?
Yeah, but they don't play defense in the Big 12.
All right.
All right, well, I guess that's it. It's our opinions on Tua.
I think we came to a consent. Well,
Ugh.
I think we agree to disagree. I think Tua is the second best behind Burrow. I think we all can agree that Joe Burrow is the top quarterback in the draft.
Joe
Most
Burrow's the best
definitely.
Like he's you saw him this year. He's an NFL quarterback playing in college.
Well, he's older than the MVP of the NFL, so I'd hope so.
Yeah, but Lamar Jackson's also young as hell for his grade.
We'll see. All right. Thank you for tuning in. This has been Second Take.
Yeah, it's been nice talking to you.
Did you say you think Justin Herbert's trash?